Well, hello and welcome everyone to Challenges with QuickBooks for Nonprofits, hosted by Dean Dorton. Presenting today, we have Althea Sussman, a nonprofit senior software consultant, and Katie Rupert, a nonprofit accounting and financial manager. Today, we will be covering this is the second session of our Mission Savvy series. If you have any questions throughout the webinar, please use the chat feature at the bottom right-hand corner of your screen. That's the chat feature, not the Q&A. We will be monitoring it throughout the presentation, and we'll make sure to share any technical questions with our presenters at the end. If we do not address your question during today's presentation, contact information is included at the end of the materials, so please reach out after as needed. This session is for an hour of CPE credit, so in order to get that full number of hours or hour, there will be polling questions throughout the presentation. So right now, please open a browser and go to pollev.com/Dean Dorton. That's pollev.com/Dean Dorton. Enter your first and last name in order to receive CPE credit. Your answers are anonymous on screen, and you are not signing up for an account. You're simply providing a way for us to tie responses to your attendance for CPE credit. If you go to the next slide, you can also see that you can text 22333. You can text the message Dean Dorton to 22333, and you can answer that way. Each polling question has a 60-second time limit. This webinar is being recorded and will be emailed to you by the end of this week. Thank you so much for joining us today. Do not hesitate to ask questions. And without further ado, I give you Althea Sussman.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Althea Sussman, and I am a senior software consultant with Dean Dorton. I've been implementing ERP solutions for about 20 years, and Intacct specifically for 10. And in the last 5 or 6 years, I have concentrated in the nonprofit sector. Katie Rupert is a nonprofit accounting and financial manager at Dean Dorton, and will be assisting with today's presentation. If any of you were on the last webinar in this series, you'll notice that we're switching roles this time, where I'll be leading today. And we're collaborating again on our next presentation in this series in February. I'll provide our contact information at the end, and we do encourage you to enter questions or comments in the chat, and we will take occasional breaks to address those. Accounting systems are not something you change or replace often. But as your nonprofit organization grows in size or complexity, you reach a point where manual processes drain your productivity, and you struggle to analyze your growing range of financial and operating data. We're going to explore these issues today and provide solutions. And I will reference Sage Intacct because that's where I work most closely. But toward the end of our presentation, we'll provide some tools for comparing products. Sage is just one of the several good tools on the market today. So for today, we're going to look at the biggest signs that you may be outgrowing your accounting system and some solutions to that. Also, other possible challenges and what an outdated accounting system is really costing you and your organization. While we look into some of these challenges and costs, try thinking about connecting them to your mission by engaging program managers, donors, and board members, and keep in mind that automating that connection and strategic initiatives can free up the time to actually achieve these objectives. And let's take a quick poll to get us started. Julia was nice enough to already go through this, and we do recommend using the internet option if that's available to you, where you can log into pollev.com and enter Dean Dorton and select join. Or you could also use a text message. The polling question is, what is the biggest struggle in your current accounting software? Is it no real-time view of financial performance to make competent decisions? Cumbersome workarounds relying on spreadsheets prone to error? Re-entering, researching, or verifying data already captured elsewhere? Complex and time-consuming closes and fraud risk? Or is QuickBooks file growing too large and your chart of accounts is unmanageable? No matter which you choose, we will be going through each of these today. give it a couple minutes for the poll here. And regardless of what we choose, we will be going into depth on all of these points today. Yeah, we usually see the spreadsheets as a big one for this. Julia, does it look like most of the responses?
Yes, it is.
Okay,
yes,
perfect.
it does. Thank you so much.
Yeah. So a lot of it with the spreadsheets and also real-time visibility. So let's look at all of these. The first challenge is visibility. Nonprofits have unique reporting needs and often include expense category, project, funding, grant, location, outcome metrics, and activity. If you find it cumbersome and difficult to get specific views of your data that you need, or if you're constantly exporting, cutting and pasting data into Excel for analysis and reporting, you've probably outgrown QuickBooks. I know Katie has some additional insight to share on this challenge specifically. Katie?
Yeah, I think it's just so common for nonprofit organizations to feel like they're providing the right information because it's the right information that they've always provided. It's what's available through their accounting software, or maybe not even the current accounting software. It might be a couple of iterations ago that set the pace. It's always a great time to check in with your stakeholders and make sure that you're really giving them the information they need to be good decision makers. So I think when you're thinking about your accounting software and you're thinking about what data should be visible to your users, it's a great time to step back and actually ask those users what they need. And maybe not even what they need, but what kinds of problems are they trying to answer? Because that might actually help you peel back the data that's needed to answer those questions. Althea?
Yeah, excellent. Some of the challenges related to visibility are that you're constantly performing complex calculations and data manipulation outside of your solution, such as payroll or indirect cost pool allocations or allocations of functional expenses. Or your reports contain revenue and expense information, but no operational performance or outcome metrics. And to make more informed decisions, you need to predict where the organization is going and not where it's been. You need to be able to provide rapid answers to many stakeholders, from the CEO or executive director, your leadership team and board, to donors and funders. Nonprofit leaders must leverage every insight they can gather from performance data to better support your organization's mission in the current environment. The solution is a modern financial management system with a focus on nonprofits that will allow you to quickly drill down with instant visibility to any level of detail that you need. Sage Intacct makes it easy to slice and dice data for any view needed, resulting in real-time, deep visibility across budgets, transactions, and operational measures. This enables leaders to strengthen financial stewardship and make more proactive management decisions.
Sage Intacct really gives you that great option. And it's not only Sage Intacct, but there are a number of accounting softwares out there now that really give you that opportunity in real time. When you're in a board meeting, how many times has it happened that you're presenting a financial statement and someone invariably asks why one line item is higher than expected? If you're able to project that on a screen, or even just personally dig into it and be able to very quickly bring it up and be able to identify that travel is high because so-and-so went on a trip this month, and talk about that, it allows you to move to move off of that subject within the board meeting and really get back to the business of making your mission happen.
The second challenge is manual processes. Over time, many nonprofits gradually develop sophisticated accounting requirements such as revenue recognition and multi-entity consolidation. For example, membership organizations, they might have a hodgepodge of timing on the billing and receipt of dues, and probably have multiple tiers or discount options, multiple year pledges or grants that cannot be recognized as earned until qualified expenses have been incurred, and so on. If you're using QuickBooks for nonprofits as your financial foundation, it often means your team is forced to build cumbersome workarounds to complete these complex processes, leaving users over-reliant on spreadsheets and manual entry. And if you have multiple entities, you and your team are logging in and out of multiple instances of QuickBooks daily. Some challenges related to manual processes are the manual effort needed to import-export data, which results in duplicate data entry and errors. QuickBooks doesn't export nicely. It's difficult to capture all the applicable dimensions. It can't be exported without formatting, and that makes using the data a challenge. Tracking nonprofit revenue recognition across multiple spreadsheets is complex and time-consuming. And the inability to allocate expenses and revenue across programs. You can't get a statement of activities report that includes a column for a current month, current year to date, budget, and prior year to date on the same report. So you have to export and manipulate data again. Automated, paperless workflows accelerate routine accounting and reporting tasks, leaving more time to focus on strategies that help accomplish your organization's mission. Modern accounting systems have built-in automation and workflows that streamline processes to save time and reduce errors, while QuickBooks does not provide these built-in capabilities. Sage Intacct is one solution that increases your effectiveness and productivity by tailoring transactions and approval workflows to eliminate redundant data entry, automatically routing and tracking digital approval sign-offs on transactions, and automating fund revenue and billing processes. The third challenge was information silos. Most organizations don't integrate QuickBooks with other key applications. It's very common to see a lot of manual integration points between business systems and nonprofits using QuickBooks, which may be fine when transaction volumes are low, but it's a real productivity killer as the organization grows. Data silos also mean the inability to easily tie financial data with statistical data for transparency into outcome metrics and other KPIs needed to effectively run your organization and secure funding. Some of the challenges around information silos are multiple disconnected systems, such as donor or membership databases, which cause inefficiency and result in the need for duplicate data entry. Too much manual work tracking down data means less time for analysis to understand the causes and impacts. And disparate systems make it virtually impossible to gain a 360-degree view of the overall organization.
I think that this is a great time to mention too that it's really important to think about what kind of support you're getting from your software provider or the third party that is supporting your software, because QuickBooks isn't always able to provide the level of support that you might need as a growing nonprofit organization.
Good point. You can leverage key data from across the organization by choosing a cloud financial management solution that supports effortless integration to best-in-class applications. Seamless integration with other streams of organizational data will provide leaders and other stakeholders with the ability to track statistical metrics that are central to your organization's operations and programs. The ability to add the statistical data to reports and dashboards will make relationships visible in various ways that make sense to the decision makers. Sage Intacct provides users an open API standard to enable nonprofits to integrate cloud-based solutions with much less difficulty or expense than traditional software integrations. With this open API web architecture, your organization can easily integrate best-in-class solutions. so you're free to choose business applications based on functional fit instead of integration concerns. The fourth challenge involves insufficient audit records. Stewardship and accountability are vital to the sustainability of your nonprofit organization. Whether charity evaluators, constituents, or potential donors, it's critical to have deep and full audit records to not only prevent fraud, but to close your books effectively and ensure that you're achieving the best possible return on mission. When accounting software is outdated or lacks features, the audit process quickly becomes mired in sorting through the accounting records rather than identifying risk.
A lot of nonprofit organizations too, Althea, might just now be becoming eligible for the single audit because of the amount of COVID funding that's out there right now. A lot of organizations that maybe previously had not been recipients to federal funding are now, or were recipients and just always fell below the threshold, which currently is $750,000 a year in received income, in earned income. So we might have more organizations that actually need to consider these, the quality of their audit records.
Exactly. Some challenges of insufficient audit records are combing through transactions to trace them to financial statements, to the general ledger and back. An auditor must come to you to access more information and supporting documents. And file cabinets, multiple spreadsheets, and exporting, importing data out of other applications slow your audit. Audit requirements and needs vary across different nonprofit organizations, but all organizations need modern audit records. The solution is a modern cloud financial system which establishes clear and complete audit records from transaction to report and reconciliation. So auditors will be able to easily and effectively test your organization's accounting processes. Once your accounting process is well documented and auditable, you need to present your financials, reconciliations, and supporting documents to your auditors in a timely manner via internal controls and data storage. Sage Intacct speeds up accounting period closes through automated calculations that eliminate the inefficiencies and inaccuracies associated with manual spreadsheets. The fifth challenge was restricted growth. As your nonprofit organization grows, you need an accounting system that can grow with you. QuickBooks was designed for the needs of small businesses, not designed to manage the sophisticated processes of a growing nonprofit, and does not offer advanced functionality or robust financial controls. If you're adding or have added additional entities or locations, or have acquired any organizations, it's a good bet that QuickBooks isn't serving your needs well. Some challenges of restricted growth include system crashes and loss of data resulting in wasted time re-entering data, inability to manage revenue recognition and maintain compliance requirements, and a hard-coded chart of accounts has resulted in an unmanageable, confusing number of account combinations. For example, grouping and rolling up data for different stakeholders can't be done in QuickBooks. An account can be subbed to just one other account. A chart of accounts should have just one supply account, and it can be associated with various programs or grouped with other expenses for grant or contract reporting without needing to create new supply accounts for each one. Cloud software was designed for growth. It provides your nonprofit with a scalable architecture that allows for increases in transaction volume, the ability to add new entities and ledgers, and financial controls to ensure compliance and auditability. You can reduce complexity by simplifying your chart of accounts using dimensions. Streamlining your inter-entity transactions, allocations, eliminations, and financial consolidations, reporting and analysis can be accomplished by extensive built-in automation and one-click consolidations. You can also take advantage of deep support for global nonprofits with automatic multi-currency transactions and reporting. Plus, you can store, manage, and report any data in multiple currencies. Let's take a moment to ask what some of your specific challenges are with your current accounting system that maybe we haven't covered yet today. You can enter them into the chat throughout the rest of the presentation, and we can address them in the Q&A session in a few moments. If you can't think of a specific challenge, maybe you could enter what nonprofit sector type that you're involved with, and that will give us some talking points to discuss with you.
I really like the point that you just made, Althea, about having just one supply account. And as you were saying that, it caused me to think too that as your organization grows, sometimes you have a project manager that might be responsible for a single grant area or a single part of your operations. And you might not want them to have visibility into all of your supplies activity. By having just the one supply GL account and using another dimension, like a projects or a program dimension or a department to monitor that other activity, you should be able to set up your software in such a way that you can limit the visibility of individual managers to those areas of the budget that they're really responsible for. Even if that's not a security issue for you, it can just lead to a lot more efficiency for workflow for those individuals to not have to weed through a lot of unnecessary information.
Right, and any of the reports that you create inside of the program can be filtered on the way out to any specific program manager for just their program. So you can just have to manage one report and have 6 different people see it 6 different ways depending on how it's filtered for them.
Just filtering in general is a real limitation within QuickBooks. Although you can hard code some of those filters when you create a new report, it's really challenging to, on the fly, change those filters or make those filters available to each individual program manager that might need some different version of the same information.
Exactly. Okay, well, we will be checking back with the chat shortly. These next few slides show some additional challenges, impediments to success, and finance deliverables to help you reflect on where you may be having challenges in your organization. These include tight operational budgets, manual offline reporting, fund accounting, managing performance to budget, visibility into cash flow, lack of internal controls, and fraud risk.
I can tell you that when I sat on the other side of the desk, I think my number one here would have been just being interrupted in my work almost every day with the same questions I got the month before. And it would be great to be able to provide that information in a way that that individual might understand a little bit better and be able to self-serve.
Exactly. Some general impediments to success with legacy accounting systems include manual processes and workarounds, a heavy dependency on Excel as their reporting tool, no workflow capabilities, lack of web-based access, especially in today's remote world, and IT is not a core competency of your organization. Some deliverables you need for your organization from your accounting software include financial and operational reporting to internal and external stakeholders, effective budgeting and planning, proper stewardship of funds, timely closing of books, audit and compliance, revenue recognition, and annual Form 990 reporting. So in speaking to the real cost of QuickBooks, there is the lack of reporting and real-time business visibility, which forces you into Excel or a third-party reporting tool. reduce staff productivity from manual processes and workarounds such as revenue recognition, increase risks around security, financial controls, and auditability, lack of scalability as you grow, for example, users, entities, and data, lack of remote user access, and of course, the IT costs of maintaining this system and its needed workarounds.
Althea, there's something that I think we left off that list
Go back.
that I just
Okay.
thought of.
Mhm.
There's so many different versions of QuickBooks out there, and I know that many of you probably on this call are maybe operating on different versions. There's a couple, there's desktop versions, there's desktop versions that haven't been upgraded. There's the new, well, it's not really new anymore, but QuickBooks Online is available. There's versions for Mac. I think that creates a challenge in and of itself, that finding that network of users that can really answer your question, and being able to speak to a problem and know that the person on the other end of your voice is being able to picture that same problem in the same way. I think there's a real value to that we've lost with QuickBooks just because of the multiple versions that are out there now.
Right, and normally cloud-based solutions, and again, Sage Intacct is one of those, is constantly updated. Everyone's always on the same version. It's updated quarterly. There's no question of, well, what version are you on? Because everybody's on the same version. It's uniform.
Exactly.
That way. Yeah, which makes support a lot easier. I can say that.
Exactly.
Some other signs that you may be outgrowing QuickBooks are an increased manual effort to manage business processes that QuickBooks can support, an inability to get the information you need when you need it, how you need it. You're spending on IT, but it's not your core competency, and QuickBooks isn't scaling well with your organization. Who can you engage in the process of evaluating alternative software? You can ask your non-financial staff users or your board or audit firm. You can check with peer organizations or nonprofit networks.
Best practice is really to do a request for proposals in RFP. And it's really important as you put together those RFPs to engage these multiple resources in your effort to put together an RFP. You want that request for proposal to really be comprehensive in meeting your needs. So don't worry about using the right technical terms. In really plain English, I think it's most beneficial when you include information about your organization, what your short-term and long-term goals are, and just really talk about your mission and how you've been accomplishing that so far and what you see moving forward. That will give whoever's responding to that RFP a real good foundation to determine which software might best fit your needs and be able to grow with you. And if you decide not to go with an RFP and you really just want to look at individual softwares, it's really important to make sure ahead of time that you've defined those criteria that are most important to you and how you're going to measure them so that you can really fairly compare those products and not get swept up in some of the marketing that surrounds many of those opportunities that are out there.
Correct, and also I've seen where maybe it wasn't checked with if the software also will integrate with your other current software like Razor's Edge or any other external software that you depend on that's your main like fundraising software or such.
Exactly.
So make sure that's on there as well.
Any sort of merchant account, point of sale software.
Mm-hmm.
It's important too to make sure that you have a good understanding of how you're going to convert your current data to a new system and what type of support you'll receive in that effort. Switching software is a great opportunity to update things like your chart of accounts and your accounting policies and your workflows, and really be able to identify transactions in ways that better suit your needs. But that also presents a little bit of a workload challenge in that you then need to take any data that you want to be comparative and reframe it using that same new chart of accounts or dimension structure. So be realistic about the amount of time that's going to take. And I think it's a good practice to engage a partner that can really assist you in that process.
We've had people bring in full history, which means every line of their GL. We also have, if their changes are too complex, they don't really want to do all that detail, they just bring in their monthly summaries. So then they have to map, a couple years of monthly summaries, just to get that comparison financials to be able to compare.
Right,
So
and if you're receiving any type of grant funding or you're contracting with a third party, it's important to know what they're going to need as well, so that you're not taking two systems and having to do a lot of that on the side Excel work that we're trying to get away from.
Exactly. Nonprofit leaders want to spend their time, money, and resources helping their constituents, advocating change, researching cures, educating the community, preserving the arts, and thousands of other worthy endeavors. They do not want to struggle with software and the hardware and network infrastructure that goes along with legacy on-premise fund accounting solutions. The economic landscape has forced nonprofits, donors, and constituents to attempt to do more with less. There is one bright spot: cloud-based accounting solutions that give nonprofits the sector-specific functionality they need while eliminating the substantial costs associated with hardware, servers, and network infrastructure. Sage Intacct has helped thousands of organizations graduate from QuickBooks, specializing in helping nonprofits of all types, including health and human services, education organizations, NGOs, trade and membership associations, philanthropic charities, cultural institutions, faith-based organizations, and many more. Sage Intacct streamlines grant, fund, project, and donor accounting while delivering real-time visibility into the metrics that matter. Its modern, true cloud-based solution with open APIs gives nonprofits the connectivity, visibility, and efficiency they need to do more with less. Sage Intacct helps nonprofits strengthen stewardship, build influence, grow funding, and achieve mission success. Let's see what everyone has entered into the chat, and we can try to address as many as we can in the time remaining. If needed, we can respond to your questions offline after the webinar. We will be giving our contact information at the very end. I don't know, Katie, are you able to see the chat?
I'm not.
No.
We don't have any questions at this time.
How about, would participants like to enter in what type or what sector of nonprofit that they're in? And maybe we can talk about those and how it might relate to cloud software or some of the challenges specific to them.
It's always so difficult to be the first one to enter anything when you're participating in something like this.
Well, I guess interrupt us, Julia, if we do get any.
You know I will.
Okay.
We definitely welcome everyone, and there's no reason to be intimidated. We're a welcoming group.
Going back to when Katie was talking about the concise.
We got an answer.
Oh, yeah.
A civil rights and social justice organization.
Okay, so they advocate for civil rights and social justice, which is excellent.
I wonder if that's a donation-based organization then, most likely. So I think a critical point there is just making sure that you're not duplicating what you have in your donor database with what you have in your accounting system. whether you're using QuickBooks or you're looking to graduate to a cloud-based system, that's, I think, an important consideration, that you're using your time as efficiently and as possible and eliminating that opportunity for error by duplicating data entry. If you can create that API communication between your two systems, that resolves a lot of that problem. And if you don't create the API, which is fine too, some people like to have more control over that data entry in their accounting software and in their donor database. But really thinking about which data makes the most sense to be kept in which system, and then reconciling the two systems rather than duplicating them.
Exactly. And going back to the chart of accounts, where in QuickBooks you're locked into that one account as a sub-account of, one-to-one relationship, where in a dimensional-based accounting system, you have your standard chart of accounts, or your pared down chart of accounts. We have one supplies account, one program supplies account, and then you tag it with the different dimensions, like what program, what employee, what grant, if you're paying a bill, it tracks the vendor. So all of your financial reporting can be sliced and diced by any of those dimensions or a combination of dimensions. Like, I want to see everything in this program that was for this department or for this grant. So it does give you flexibility.
Robust software also allows you to group those things in different ways for different groups of constituents or stakeholders, or if you're reporting out to different funders, maybe your donors versus a grant, versus you're doing some fee-for-service work and you want to group those expenses in a different way to present to those different audiences. A robust accounting system should allow you to do that without having to create new accounts, and you should be able to record the same type of transaction in the same way, regardless of how it's being paid for.
Exactly. And many times I've helped organizations where they have they have an internal report on how they report, but then they need a different one for their board. So it's the same accounts, they're just grouped differently in different reports. But you don't need to make two different accounts for that and make two different entries for that. You make one entry and it ends up in two different places on a financial report, because you do have that flexibility on different reports to group them differently.
Exactly. You put in a little bit of thinking power on the front end, and you can really save yourself a lot of time on an ongoing basis.
Yeah, and when you were talking before about the API, the two programs, like say Razor's Edge or a donor program, could communicate directly with a cloud-based accounting system. And if you do want that control, you can have the donor system export a file and then just import it to the other system. But at least you're not doing double data entry.
You're still really mitigating your opportunity for risk whenever you're not actually keying. It also creates better segregation of duties in many cases, because most of our nonprofits just don't have the resources to have a lot of different bodies doing these operations. So by simplifying the processes, you can really hand off some of those responsibilities to people that might not be trained in accounting or might not be executives within the organization, but they're able to do some of those processes because they have been really simplified in a way that makes them less onerous.
Right, and speaking to the separation of duties, that's why it's important too to have a workflow with approvals, because you do have the same people doing the same things. You can't have one person just doing bank rec and one person just cutting checks. They need them to do other things. So as long as you have the audit trail or audit data, it tags who entered it, who posted it, who approved it. So they still have the ability to do things, but it shows who did what. So if you do have people that need to cross-train and be able to cover for other people, you still have that ability, and it tracks who does what in a cloud-based solution. Plus the approvals is incredible. Enter in a bill and it gets approved by somebody, then somebody else can pay it. And you can even put an approval for payment as well.
Yeah, and it's a lot less, it's a lot more challenging to tamper with that than it is with paper. If you've got those sign-offs in a filing cabinet somewhere, it's much easier to look at your audit selection list and see, oh, we forgot to authorize that one, and get a quick signature, which really leads to the need to do more testing in audit. By using an automated system, you've really mitigated the amount of tampering that is even available to you. So right off the bat, auditors will come in and recognize that that system has been locked down more tightly, and their sample size doesn't have to be as large in most cases.
Exactly.
Less time with your auditors is always a good thing.
No
They're
more
lovely
needing
people. Great people to go out to lunch with.
I've been in rooms where they turn the heat all the way off, and I just wanted to show a reminder that we are having a third and fourth installment of this webinar series on February 2nd and March 2nd for digital transformation, and also a roundtable discussion with some of our current clients to discuss this whole mission savvy webinar series. And as promised, here is our contact information. In case you have any questions, maybe you didn't want to put it into the chat. But if you have any questions you think of afterward, you can just ping Katie or myself, and we can hopefully answer those for you.
Althea and I both work on a team that's really that's dedicated to nonprofit organizations. So we really spend all of our energy and making sure that we're on top of the challenges being faced by nonprofits, and making sure that we have a good understanding of any compliance issues that affect nonprofits, just general trends. So although we each have our own areas of specialization, either of us can really easily point you in the direction of the right tax person, or the right audit person, or the right technology person to really respond to most of your business needs. And we're happy to do that. So please feel free to reach out to either one of us if you have any thoughts on your accounting software, but also any other business needs that you might just need a sounding board for.
Okay, if there's nothing else coming into the chat.
Not at this time.
Okay. Well, then we may just have a few minutes given back to everyone's day. But again, if you have any questions at all, there's our contact information, and you can get a hold of us anytime. And I wanted to thank you all for your time this afternoon, and hope you have a great rest of your week.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.